You're locked into the Liberty Flames podcast, powered by Rogers Heating and Cooling, servicing Greater Lynchburg's HVAC and electrical needs. Schedule your service today at callrogers.com.
The Liberty Flames mobile app is a must-have for game days. When you download the app, your access to Flames Nation is in the palm of your hand. Listen to our live Liberty Flames Sports Network audio broadcast. Click the Media tab, and under Audio, find the live broadcast in progress. Football, basketball, baseball, coaches shows, all right here. Purchase and manage tickets to the next Flames home game. Click the Tickets tab. Select Purchase Tickets. Then you have the ability to buy seats to the next game. Download those tickets directly to your device and scan them at the gate. Or select Manage Tickets to download your previously purchased tickets or parking pass. Transfer or sell your tickets easily through the Manage Tickets button. Download the Liberty Flames mobile app today from your App Store or Google Play.
Welcome to the NAZSCAR podcast with Nick Pierce. Don't worry, there's no lap traffic or caution flags here. Paul Nazigian and Tim Scarborough are here to bring you the latest on Liberty Flames basketball and mid-major hoops. Now, let's get to it. Here's Nick, Naz, and Scar.
What's going on, Flames Nation? Welcome back into the NAZSCAR podcast. I'm Nick Pierce along with Paul Nazigian and Tim Scarborough. Naz and Scar on board here again this week, talking Flames basketball and looking ahead. Looking back, looking ahead as well for the Flames. Only one game since the last time we visited with you. We'll chop that up for you here in just a bit as Liberty disposed of Carolina University earlier this week to move to 4-0. Flames stay hot to begin this season, but some stiff tests coming up here for this team. We'll get into more of that a little bit later on here on the NAZSCAR podcast, part of the Liberty Flames podcast family, presented by Rogers Heating and Cooling. Schedule your service today at callrogers.com. Fellas, good to see you again. Happy early Thanksgiving. We are heading into feast week, and we know that means not just literal feasting. We know that means a lot of college basketball coming up next week. I got to ask you, for both you guys, how far in advance do you circle this week on your calendars? I know how much you love college basketball. This has got to be as good as it gets outside of March Madness, right?
For me, it kind of snuck up on me this year. I've only, obviously I went to Liberty and watched them play, but I haven't really even gone out and watched any other live basketball. Normally this time I will have been down to Auburn or out to Georgia State or Georgia Tech, but I haven't done that yet. So it's kind of sneaking up on me, but I am enjoying watching on television.
Yeah, Nick, I don't know if it's like this for you since we're both in the Lynchburg area, but it snuck up on me too. The weather has been so warm here. It doesn't feel like we're just a week out from Thanksgiving, but yeah, you turn on the games at night and there's some great matchups this time of year, especially over the next week or so. So yeah, it's going to be fun, and Flames going to be right there with some good ones coming up at the start of this coming week.
Yeah, there's a game on just about every night right now. It feels like I was kind of flipping through the channels just before we came in here and got started on this one. One of the opponents the Flames are going to have next week in Kissimmee played tonight, Vermont, and we'll get into that. They actually just took their first loss of the year tonight. High-scoring game against Buffalo. We'll get into that a little bit later on. But speaking of high-scoring, how about what the Flames did at Liberty Arena on Monday night? 98-46 win over Carolina University. I don't think that final score surprises anyone. Maybe the slow start, Naz. You were on the call for TV on Monday night. Slow shooting start. I think the Flames were 0 for 8 or 0 for 9 from 3 to begin that game. No Colin Porter, did not play. Undisclosed. I don't even know if we call it an injury. He's banged up right now, whatever it was, undisclosed. Sat the game on Monday. Brett Decker Jr. played the first half, tweaked his foot, sprain. Coach Richard McKay called it. Did not play the second half. Still had 11 points, but there was plenty of firepower from other places for the Flames on Monday night. Naz kind of overcame that little bit of a slow start and then really just kind of poured it on after that, didn't they?
Yeah, for sure. We hear from time to time, why does Liberty play these games? And again, I think that the timing of it was perfect to get a game like that in, kind of sandwiched in between what's going to be really, coming off a tough weekend and going down. That's going to be 3 tough games. So it was a game again that you was never really in question, but it gave a chance for some guys to recuperate, and that was a little bit more. Porter was a little more precautionary. Um, it's funny, we didn't realize like he's started in 106 straight games, all of his games, all the possible games. He's the Nick. You'll appreciate this. He's the Cal Ripken of Liberty basketball, right? So
Okay, easy there. Cal Ripken played 3,000 games.
for what he's capable of doing. Yes, I would go.
yes,
Yeah.
I mean, he's just and think about it. I mean, guys get injured and whatnot, but this one he wasn't really an injury. I think more precautionary. But yeah, Nick, you mentioned a little bit of a slow start, and we were saying on the broadcast like that's not all bad because like man, they were lights out over the weekend, and you have to realize there's going to be nights where it doesn't fall like that, and they come out. They started 0 for 8 from beyond the arc, and had to kind of grind a little bit and find other ways to score, which they did, but it got a lot of people involved and a real confidence booster. And I know we're going to talk about that a little more, which some guys really needed.
Yeah, and I would say, everything I co-sign most of that except for the Cal Ripken thing, but but the balance, nobody even had 20 points, and Brett Decker, of course, didn't play in the second half, and he had 11 in the first half, and he's averaging 20 a game. So you figure he probably would have gotten out to 20 points, but they played 13 players, and that doesn't include including Brett Decker, and obviously Colin Porter didn't play as you said. But the balance is amazing. 4 guys in double figures. Xander Yates off the bench with 15 on 5 of 5 shooting. Zach Cleveland didn't have to do a lot. Flirted once again with the triple
Right.
double. This guy, the way his season is going, he may never get a triple double, but still almost average a triple double. I mean, he's
See,
been flirting with it, but he hasn't gotten it yet.
I think it's going to happen at some point. One of these nights, he's going to come away with a triple double.
Yeah, but the 8 points, 10 rebounds, 9 assists, in just 29 minutes, just a terrific showing on his part. But yeah, you mentioned Naz playing some of these games, and this has kind of been in the Richie McKay era. These are the teams that are willing to come into Lynchburg. Let's be honest. You don't want to be like a HBCU or a smaller school that has to play all these road games leading up to your conference. So you want to play as many home games, much like the Power Fives. There are Power Fives that don't even leave their home state or don't even play a true road game until they have to in conference because even when they play on the road, it's on a neutral site. It's in Madison Square Garden. It's in Atlanta. It's in Vegas, or it's on an island somewhere, right? So Richie is scheduling who wants to come into Lynchburg, and so with that, the way Liberty plays, it doesn't matter who they play. They play with the same standard, regardless of competition, and that's what makes champions, and that's why Richie, quite honestly, has been successful in the years since he's been back.
Yeah, I agree. I'm sorry, Nick, just one point on that. Yeah, no, I really agree. And I think the timeliness of it, of sort of, you open up with Kentucky Christian, it's a good one just to get off and running. And then you have a tough tournament. And then you come back with this because you need those other guys to get some minutes, to get some experience. Yeah, you know what Porter, Cleveland, Decker, and Matheny are going to do. But you got to, so last night, Josh Smith gets the start with Porter being out, and that we wanted this. I know all three of us have talked about seeing him and seeing what he can do, but really getting his legs under him first and getting his wind. And so a game like that last night, I think, was perfect. And you saw, man, who needed some confidence boost was Xander Yates. I mean, he needed that, and so you're going to watch. That's going to pay dividends. Having a game like that, he comes out 5 for 5 from 3. JJ Harper, 15 points. I mean, he did a little bit of everything. Dunks, threes, block shot. And so all these guys logging minutes, I think is makes that game absolutely worthwhile.
Yeah, and Coach McKay mentions it all the time, having faceless opponents. That means you don't really pay attention to what league they're from, what level they play at. Scar, you mentioned it, 4 in double figures, Yates with 15, J.J. Harper had 15, 5 of 6 shooting for him. Decker with 11. J.C. Shire coming off the bench, 10 minutes with 10 points. That's some incredible efficiency there. Flames led by as many as 52. They went at 98-46, put up 49 points in each half. That's some balanced, efficient offense. Shot 60%. So all that to say that the Flames did exactly what they were supposed to do on Monday night. Now, you've got kind of a weird stretch here, guys. I mean, this is the only game that the Flames play in a span of 14 days. Because you're coming off the Field of 68 event in Lynchburg, where Liberty beat Charleston on Friday, FAU on a Sunday. This is the only game between that FAU win and going down to Kissimmee for the Terry's Chocolate ESPN Events Invitational, which we'll get into here in just a minute. But you guys remember when you were coaching, playing, going through a stretch where you only play once in 14 days?
Yep. And as a player, I couldn't hate it anymore because
I figured.
because you practice so much, right? And usually those things happen over the holidays where you're not even going to class, so you're practicing two-a-days and you're going hard in those early sessions and maybe not as hard in the evening, but you're just living, breathing, sleeping basketball. So it's fun, but it's also a whole lot of work. And more importantly, you just want to compete against someone other than the guys on your team. So that's a tough situation, but those are waters that Coach Richie McKay will be able to navigate well. I will say this though, I see a potential issue with this team because they really have 15 guys that can play, right? Think about this. Isaiah Enan, who will be, when he comes back, one of the better players in this group. He'll be a 6-year senior. He's had, obviously, an injury-plagued career that followed him to Lynchburg. He got hurt midway through last season. But when he's healthy, he's one of the better players in the program, right? Colin Porter didn't play last night. So you take those two out, if you throw them in, you have 15 players. I think 12 of them that you can rely on to play significant minutes. So at some point, you're going to have to whittle that down. I think we'll find out who the top 8, 10 guys will be next week in that tournament down in Florida when they play more of a level competitive field.
Yeah, that's going to come in handy that they have that depth. And certainly, this is the perfect time for coach to kind of explore that and give guys minutes because they got to play 3 in a row. And saving legs a little bit and seeing guys and getting them some minutes and experience is going to be valuable. So again, yeah, you want to go down there and pull out 3 victories, but again, it's a learning process that's going to really help them as they go into, you get into December and conferences looming. So again, excitement, great tournament, a really good field, and I know we're going to talk about that in a little bit. So a really tough field, a competitive field. You're going to come out of that next week being better, and we'll know more about some of these guys that we've seen glimpses of and like what we see. But yeah, you're right, Scar. Depth. It's as they say, it's a good problem to have.
Yeah, and I feel like things like that tend to work themselves out over time. For one thing, no one stays healthy the entire year. Flames are already dealing with it a little bit with some stuff with Decker and Porter, although they do expect them to be fine. I mean, we saw it last year, Isaiah Enan. You never want to see it, but inevitably it just happens. Enan goes down. There's Talon Peter to pick up the torch. I think that something, hopefully not like a serious knee ending or season-ending knee injury for somebody, but you never know. I mean, things like that will tend to happen. And I think those things eventually work themselves out over time, or you just figure out a way to redshirt a bunch of these guys, right? So looking at the event for the Flames, Terry's Chocolate, ESPN Events Invitational, Disney Wide World of Sports in Kissimmee. Flames actually played down there, was it 4 years ago, 3 years ago? Whatever it was, I was down there filling in for Alan York on the radio. And actually got to play 2 or 3 games down there in that event. It's a great event. Good competition that comes in. Great facility that they play in down there at Disney. Well kept, real arena. Sometimes you go to these places and you're playing in a ballroom or you don't know,
Yeah.
you know, this is an actual basketball
Now,
arena.
the big question is, did you get to sample the Terry's chocolate?
You know what? Terry's Chocolate didn't sponsor it back then, but I did get to go to Disney's Animal Kingdom.
There you go.
So that was, you know, I got to go to one of the theme parks at least while I was down there. First opponent for the Flames will be Vermont on Monday, November 24th. That'll be a 1:30 Eastern tip-off. Second ever meeting with the Flames and the Catamounts. The last was actually in a different MTE in Myrtle Beach back in 2023. The Flames won that game 71-61. But let's look at some of the other teams that are in this thing as well. Flames play in what's called the Adventure Bracket. They've got like 2 or 3 different brackets down there. A lot of different teams. The Magic Bracket, they've got BYU, Miami, Georgetown's down there, Dayton's down there. So even in some downtime, you can watch some really good basketball as well, even outside of the bracket. But in the Flames bracket, Liberty and Vermont on Monday at 1:30. Before that, the first game of the day, you've got Rhode Island and Towson. So the winners of those 2 games will play one another the following Tuesday, very next day, Tuesday at 12 noon. The losers of those 2 games will play the next day, Tuesday at 2:30. On the other side of the bracket, you've got Temple and UC San Diego. You've got Princeton and Bradley. I think the Flames have a little recent history with Princeton and Bradley in the last couple of years or a few years. So, yeah, that's the way it stacks up. Traditionally, some pretty good basketball programs there. Again, we'll start with Vermont because that's who's kind of next on the ledger. Paul, you watched them play a little bit on Tuesday night. Lost at Buffalo 94-90. Crazy high-scoring game. That was all in regulation, was it not?
Yeah, it really was, and that's kind of par for the course for them. They're a high-scoring team, and you know, like they do on PTI, they have that. What's that segment they do in a word? You know, like so it'd be like, hey, in a word, describe Vermont. I'd say they were very Liberty-like. They
that's not a word though. That's multiple words.
Yeah,
very Liberty-like. Yeah, that's like
Liberty-like. Yeah, they are very well coached. John Becker program setting the record for most wins in the program. 20 wins every year he's been there. Amazing. And just their style of play. They like to shoot the 3, a lot of threes. Very just a really nice balance of skilled players with athleticism. They run a nice flow. Again, much like Liberty does. Great spacing, ball movement. A lot of times you'll see one of the bigs up top running that offense, like we see Zach Cleveland do. So yeah, it's going to be you know, sometimes it's playing against yourself or a team that's very much like you is very difficult. But I think it's going to be a lot of threes. We'll have to see who has the kind of the hot hand from beyond the arc, but it should be they're really good. And another one of these teams that doesn't beat themselves, just plays just good quality basketball. So it'll be a tough game, but again, a great matchup, a game that Liberty needs because that's going to get them ready for Conference USA play.
Yeah, and you think they have 2 guys, Naz, TJ Long, TJ Hurley. Long is a 5th-year guy.
Yep.
He's 23, 24 years old, 6'4" guard. He's going to be a really tough to handle. 22 points a game.
Mm-hmm.
And you think about TJ Hurley, who's in his 4th year, all at Vermont, a rarity, right? This guy played his whole career at one place and averaging 15 points a game. So, you know, that backcourt is going to be big and tough. 6'4", 6'5" guards that can shoot. So, you know, that could be a problem. You think about the teams in the past, and I'm not comparing these teams to Alabama or Oregon, but that's the formula to beat Liberty. Big guards and big wings, not just guards, that can get out and contest threes, but then contest the ball at the rim at the same time when those guards start trying to take it to the hoop. But yeah, this reminds me of the Paradise Jam last year. Last year, this time, Liberty was looking at the Paradise Jam. You know, remember UAB was in that thing. Will Wade had McNeese State in it. And we were thinking, you know, Liberty could have a nice showing, but they're going to be tested. And I don't know if they're the best team in that tournament. Turned out they were the best team in that tournament. They won that thing last year. So this is the same thing. I mean, Dayton's here, as you mentioned. K-State was in that tournament last year, and Liberty drew them, and Liberty beat them. So Liberty's has a recent history anyway of playing really well in these types of tournaments. So the Vermont is the early test. I mean, right away, Vermont, as you mentioned, as we just talked about, the scorers that they have. This is going to be a really, really fun game, first game down there. And the winner of that game is going to be difficult to beat throughout the rest of the tournament as well. So it's going to be exciting. Again, the downtime, hopefully a couple of guys get healthy and you get down there. You're not in school that week, so you can focus on basketball. Should be a fun time.
Yeah, the big question for me is I got to figure out how I'm going to watch it at 1:30 on Monday.
Yeah, I was just thinking about my productivity at my day job. Exactly.
Well, Naz, can't you just clock out next week? I mean, it's Thanksgiving week. How much work do you have going on?
Yeah, I will think of something because that's a big game. I know all three of us are going to be watching that. But yeah, even you got Vermont. Not to look ahead too much, but who's waiting in the wings. I watched also a little bit of Towson, and their coach Pat Scarry. He's kind of turned that thing around, and they get after it. They just play kind of that East Coast physical, get after you, get up in you. Kind of basketball, and Rhode Island again, a team that's kind of come out of obscurity the last few years since Bobby Hurley left, and
Archie Miller's there now.
Yeah, and so it's like it's just going to be a great tournament and great to watch, but great for Liberty to be involved in to get really tough quality games.
Yeah, and when you think about Arch Miller. He's gone from 9 wins to 12 wins to 18 wins last year.
Mm-hmm.
Got a bunch of transfers in, I believe 5 guys, a few Atlantic 10 transfers. Now, the Atlantic 10, is a conference that I used to cover and love. I think it's probably a notch or two above Conference USA. But Rhodey is picked 12th out of 16 teams in that league. So they're not the upper echelon. They're not Dayton. They're not VCU. But at the same time, there aren't any easy games in that league. I mean, Fordham is tough to beat. Duquesne's tough to beat. All those teams are tough to beat. They're gritty. And you mentioned that's a really good matchup because Towson plays that East Coast style, but so does Rhodey. They're going to be gritty.
Exactly.
They're going to be in your shorts. They're going to be trying to take the ball from you. So, yeah, again, it's going to be a very challenging but fun tournament for Liberty to play in.
But what you're saying is, Scar, that Katina Mobley or Tyson Wheeler is not walking through the door for Rhode Island, right? I mean,
Lamar Odom, he's not walking through that door. Right?
It's going to look a little different. They've got some alum though. It's kind of cool when you look back at their history. Naz, you mentioned Towson. They 3 straight years of 20+ wins. I mean, they were 22-10 last year, finished first in the CAA, didn't win their conference tournament, but they won the regular season, tied for first 2 years ago. That's a team that wins a lot of ball games. You're exactly right about them. Dayton, you mentioned them earlier. Flames won't see Dayton. They're in a different bracket down in Kissimmee. They won't see them there. However, they will see Dayton on the 20th of December when Liberty goes up there to play a regular season game. So there's some tough games coming up here we'll get into in just a moment on the schedule, but I think this is going to be a great event. I think it's a little strange when you look back at the last Vermont meeting, and you guys kind of touched on it already with Long and Hurley. There's a lot of guys that have some familiarity with each other. They just played against each other 2 years ago with Long and Hurley and Porter and Matheny and Cleveland. They were all part of that game 2 years ago. You don't see that a whole lot anymore.
You don't. The continuity, the word now is retention. If you can retain your players, and a lot of teams can. I remember 3 years ago talking to Dan D'Antoni at Marshall, and before he retired, a long time, of course, he was Mike D'Antoni's brother, and those guys
still is
kind of still his brother. Yes, it's true. They kind of developed this whole the style of play that everyone plays now in the NBA in particular. But he said it's because of that style of play, he was able to retain 100% of his players. You just don't hear about that. And Liberty is a team that was able to retain a good amount of guys, at least the core guys, but they have a lot of new players as well. So retention is something that you don't hear about as much anymore.
Yeah, and you're right, Scar. Style of play is huge, and of course, yeah, money's unfortunately in the factor now, but
Mm.
it really speaks when you see guys staying. It really speaks to culture, and coaches that are doing it the right way, and quality teammates, and so that's why you get situations like that with certainly with Liberty, Vermont, and some of these other schools that can hold on to guys. You're like, yeah, because they've got a winning tradition and a coach that really has built a winning tradition and culture there too. So yeah, we're going to see a really good one Monday afternoon, and then we'll see where it goes from there.
Yeah, depends on who you ask. If unfortunately money is part of this thing, you ask the players, they say fortunately
Yeah,
money is part of this
yeah.
thing now. But your point's well taken. I mean, it's changed the landscape in a lot of. I think there's been a lot of unintended consequences with revenue sharing, NIL, still figuring all of that out. And kudos to Coach McKay because it's not just college basketball, it's football, it's every sport, especially at the upper echelon, the more revenue heavy sports that are having to navigate this thing. Kudos to Richie McKay figuring it out. And they took that dip a couple of years ago. I think went 18-14. I say a dip, right? A lot of teams would love to win 18 games in a down year,
Yeah.
but then they come right back last year and they're right back on track. I mean, he evaluated needs, he addressed them, and he's built a culture that has, like you guys say, guys want to stay, and the retention rate has been pretty good. Looking ahead, Coppin State after this is over with, December 6th, just finishing out the non-conference schedule. NC State December 10th. That's one that I kind of got circled here, Scar. One of the few Power Fours that's on the schedule for the Flames. You guys mentioned Will Wade earlier. We all know he's in Raleigh now, leading the Wolfpack. That's a 7 Eastern tip in Raleigh on Wednesday, December 10th. Will that be kind of a benchmark kind of game?
Oh,
I mean, we want to know what this team's made of, right? I mean, that's going to be one of the tougher non-conference opponents the Flames see, right?
I'd say the toughest, Dayton doesn't lose in their place, but the way Will Wade has it going there already, I've watched a couple of their games. They played Radford. I'm sorry, not Radford. They played Greensboro, who Mike Jones is the head coach of
Who?
now. Mike Jones. And those guys, of course, were assistants back in the Shaka Smart days when I used to live in Richmond. So I got to know both those guys a little bit. But Will, he is going to get it done everywhere he's been. We talked about him at McNeese State. McNeese State was one of the better mid majors in the country last year, which led to him getting the NC State job. But I tell you what, they played VCU over the weekend down there. VCU is like Liberty in terms of hard to beat, but they have a different style of play, obviously. But they play up tempo and they're really, really physical. NC State plays the same way. They press you. They play a lot like the old Shaka Smart VCU teams. And you don't usually see that from majors, right? The majors tend to play straight man to man. They may pick you up full court, but they're not playing 1-2-2 traps and trying to get after you that way. It's more about their physicality and their size. But this NC State team is going to be really good in conference. A lot of mid-major transfers, a ton of older players. If Liberty can go in that building and win, I may have a whole different viewpoint and perspective about what I think about this team. And I think this team is really good.
Yeah, just a thought on that, maybe the upside and downside. The upside, we got to credit a little shout out to Will Wade because, Liberty's always looking for games, good games, quality games. And Will
Mhm.
Wade has stepped up, when he was at LSU
Never
and then
scared.
played what
Never scared,
that's
right?
right.
Never
That's right.
scared.
And so I know as a program, we appreciate that about him and getting this game is big. Now, the downside is he's played Liberty 3 or 4 times and knows what Liberty does. So he's very well aware of scouting report and how to attack Liberty. So yeah, no, they're gonna have their hands full. But again, anytime nowadays, as we've said on the show, like it doesn't matter where they go. They're going to go into the any arena with the top schools, and Liberty's going to put up a fight because that's the quality of program we are. That's where Coach McKay has brought it over the last few years. And you go
Agreed.
in there and like they could go in there and win it. Like, it would take a great feat and a great effort, but they have they have the ability to do it. And that's just an amazing testament to where the program is right now, and how coach has brought it this far.
Yeah, that'll be in the Lenovo Center down in Raleigh coming up on December 10th. Last time I was in the Lenovo Center, it wasn't for a basketball game. You guys know what it was?
A wrestling
No.
event.
No, but that's a good.
No,
That's a great
Mariah
guess.
Carey. Mariah
That's
Carey.
There you go. There's
Oh,
the
that's
winner.
right.
There's the
There
winner
you
right
go.
there.
Yeah.
Mariah
I know,
Carey Christmas concert last
Oh
year.
my
That's
goodness.
There you
at
go.
the Lenovo Center last December. Might have to go back. Actually, that might be right about a year. Maybe I'll have to go back for that NC State Liberty
So,
game.
so the question is, did she see you in the audience, and did she say, "Why are you always here"?
Only the third time I've been. Come on. No, I was about 30 rows back. So let's finishing this thing out here. We got a few minutes left. Let's get to how about we get to this week's Scar Watch? Tim, what do you got for us?
Yeah. Let's bring back a staple of our show over the years, the Scar Watch. For those of you tuning in and haven't seen what we do, I'm Scar. I have a Scar Watch. So what I do is I like to keep my eye on certain players, certain coaches, certain teams, certain trends. And this time, I'm going to keep my eye on Xander Yates. Let's give a shout out to Xander Yates first of all, because he transferred in a couple of years ago from Creighton, and he hasn't played as much as he wants to. Of course, his dad was one of our teammates, me and Naz, when we played at Liberty many years ago. And I facilitated some of those conversations, bringing him to Lynchburg. So I have a vested interest in his abilities to play, and he's really shown in those small moments over the last couple of years that he can contribute. A really outstanding three-point shooter in a group of outstanding three-point shooters. 5 for 5 from downtown on Monday night, and let's hope he builds on that. We talked about the depth of this team. Liberty's really there's three guys 6'9" and are brand new. There's Isaiah Enan, who's going to work his way back in. And of course, Zach Cleveland's got to play 30 plus minutes because he's a special player. So Xander, who is 6'7", has had to play the 5 and the 4, and he's really kind of a 3. So he's playing out of position at times, and he's really fighting, clawing, and scratching just for minutes. But in the time he gets out there, he's proven that he can be a solid contributor. So I hope that continues, and I really, from a personal level, hope he gets a little bit more minutes as the season wears on.
So
Yeah,
that's our Scar Watch. Let's get into the NASDAQ report now. For those of you that have not been with the program until recently, stock up, stock down. Could be a player, could be a team. Paul Nazigian with this week's NASDAQ report.
Yeah, it could be a little of who knows what, but we're going to go.
That's the truth.
Who knows what the report may bring? But for this first one, we're gonna keep it in house, and it's the perfect timing for it. So my NASDAQ report is going to be stock up, and it's J.C. Shire, and I just wanted to hit him here on the first one because we got to watch him yesterday, and I mean he really came out, had a great game, a lot of fun, 10 points in 10 minutes. Hit a 3, made a couple nice drives to the basket, just did a little bit of everything. But beyond the court, that's why it's not like I don't know how many minutes he'll get the rest of the way out. It may be limited, but he's stock up because of the quality of kid that he is, of young man that he is. And I was really impressed. Like he's out there having a good time, but in the post game, and he got to do the presser, which was really cool. But he's in there and he's talking like a coach, and he's deflecting praise to the other guys, and it's just that's who he is to the core. And the other thing I actually looked across. It was funny last night. So we're looking across as we're doing the broadcast, and my heart jumped out of my chest when I saw Decker with his foot up and an ice bag on there. But you could kind of tell that wasn't too serious. But you look over there, and JC's over there, and the rest of the guys are brand new. There was a time a few years ago, you had Steven Bergraft, who's kind of moved up into the coaching realm. You had some of these other managers. You had some guys that have moved on to other schools or graduated. Some of these faces, and you look over there, and JC is still there. It's his 4th year in the program. He redshirted. This is his 3rd as a player, and I'm thinking to myself, like, he is so crucial as a culture bearer. Because the other guys have moved on, and think of all the new guys, the transfers, the freshmen that are all sort of down there at the end of the bench. You got Tor Sorensen and TJ Drain and Grimes, and they're all down there. A lot of new faces. The returners are sort of out on the floor, and you see JC down there talking to guys, setting the tone with enthusiasm. And it's like, that's important to have a guy that knows the culture, that's been there for those years. He's setting the tone too. It's not all about minutes. It's in the locker room. It's on the bus. And so, he just embodies everything that you want out of a Liberty guy. And I just wanted to kind of highlight him tonight, especially coming off that 10-point effort last night. That was a lot of fun to watch him do that.
Yeah, he's a great dude to have around. And you need those guys for sure that don't always get the recognition. They put in the work and practice. Gabriel McKay was one of those guys too. I know, son of the coach, but that always carries a certain aura with it or whatever, but you'd never know it. Just watch. I got the chance to watch him in practice and watch him lead and watch guys respond. It's interesting when you get that front row seat. Not many do. I'm fortunate there that I was able to see how it's not always the guys with the most points or rebounds that are the leaders behind closed doors. So good stuff there. Good NASDAQ report, good Scar Watch, good start on those 2 segments, and another show in the books, fellas, just like that. So Liberty moving on to take on Vermont next week. It is game 1 of the Terry's Chocolate ESPN Events Invitational, and now I need to go find some M&Ms or something because
I was just about to say I don't know if I'm looking more forward to Thanksgiving meal or these Liberty games coming up next week, but next week is going to be a stimulating week for sure for all of us.
Absolutely. So we'll have them for you on the radio, Liberty Flames Sports Network from Van Wagner. Check it out on the Liberty Flames mobile app, libertyflames.com. And, of course, the official team accounts for Liberty men's basketball. Alan York will be on the play-by-play for you next Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday down in Kissimmee at Disney's Wide World of Sports. That will wrap it up for NASCAR here this week. NASCAR. I'll get it right in a second. I said NASCAR. NASCAR.
Let's stay on brand. Let's stay on brand.
Yeah, exactly. It's part of the Liberty Flames podcast presented by Rogers Heating and Cooling, servicing Greater Lynchburg's HVAC and electrical needs. Schedule your service at callrogers.com. For Naz, for Scar, I'm Nick Pierce. Enjoy the basketball next week. We'll be back with you next week to recap some of the MTE that the Flames are playing in and look ahead at what's next for Liberty. So until then, enjoy the week. So long, everybody.